Alright guys, welcome back to another Diablo 2, Project Diablo 2 video. This time I'm going to be showing you guys what my build is on live for Uber Tristram using a Zeal paladin. So, full disclosure, I'm no expert on Ubers. This is the first season I've ever done them. I've tried doing them offline a few times with just like whatever, but I've never really looked into it to doing it on live. I've been playing Diablo forever, and it's not something I've ever done. So I thought it'd be cool to do. So I'm gonna go over the build I'm using, the gear I have, and then some specific stuff about the actual encounter. So let's go over the build first. So physical zeal. So physical zeal is got one synergy. So you max zeal, of course, and then you max sacrifice. You want to get down to joust. Now, you don't really need this for Ubers, but it's just useful for farming when you're not doing Ubers. And then I put 1 point down until you get to Holy Shield. Then we're going to be maxing Fanaticism Aura, so you need to get these on the way. And then after that, you're going to be putting points into these three for the passive effects. I'm level 90, so I think I put 10 points in each. But whatever you do, it needs to be an even number, because you get 1% passive maximum resistance to the elemental tree every 2 levels. So you're going to get an extra +5 to fire, cold, and lightning, which are the ones you want. And then I think beyond that is overkill. Just 5's enough. And any leftover points you're going to throw into Holy Shield. So Holy Shield levels are always just good. They're going to increase your overall defense rating and block rating and all that. A couple things about Zeal. So Zeal is it's a single target attack, but in PD2 it does AoE damage. So you can hold the shift key or whatever modifier you have, mine's on space, to just attack on the spot, of course, or you can just run up the units and attack them, and it will try to attack whatever's in range. New to Season 6 is that every physical ability in the game, if a target is moving while you're attacking it, you'll gain 1 attack range. So the way attack range works in this game is there's a little grid invisible around your character, and it goes out in the different quadrants diagonally because it's an isometric game. And basically, if something's in range and you attack it, you can then do the whole calculation on whether you hit and whatnot. If it's out of range for your weapon, you'll attack, but you'll always miss. So in order to alleviate some of this annoyance of playing melee and missing a lot, they've increased the range on moving targets. Basically, all that means is that in Season 6, playing a physical class, you're going to be hitting a lot more often, especially against evasive units in the game, like Fallens that run away or anything that's kind of fast. So that helps a lot. Also, as well, confirmed last season, I made a comment about how Smite seemed to have been doing skill damage in Splash instead of just the actual attack damage. So in previous seasons, as you can see right now, if I was Zealing, the melee splash mechanic would have been dealing this damage, which is only 1500 to 1700. In this season, it's now going to be doing your Zeal damage, which you can see is about double that. So this is like a double your DPS now for any AoE type of situation. They clarified exactly how melee splash works. The way it works is your target that you're actually attacking. So if I attack this guy here, this is a bad example because they're teleporting. But let's go kill Shank. I'll show you that. Yeah. So if I attack Shank in an AoE around him, for each attack, it's going to do an attack check on every other unit in a circle around that unit. And if it hits, it will apply the same damage as my smite damage. Now, it can crit, so the AoE effect on each target can crit. I'm not sure if it does one check to see if they all crit, or if each individual check needs to crit. Not that important, but just know that it can crit. However, there's a few things that don't apply. So crushing blows doesn't apply to AoE. So deadly strike, critical strike, super important stat for physical Zealer because of that. Crushing blow, less important. You need some of it for bosses, of course, but this isn't something that's going to help you kill mobs or whatever. This video is about Ubers, so let's get back to that. Our aura is fanaticism. So fanaticism, when you're using a phase blade, which I'm using in this build, if you have a level 20 fanaticism at least, then you only need to have 4% increased attack speed. I'm not sure if a level 25 aura, which is what I have, is going to make it so I need 0 increased attack speed to hit the max breakpoint for Zeal, but nonetheless, you need one piece of gear with any amount of attack speed on it to hit the attack speed breakpoint for Zeal, so that's why we're using fanaticism. If you, for some reason, in your build don't need attack speed, because you're hitting it with your gear, you would instead max might, because you'll be getting more damage. Max level might does more damage than max level fanaticism. However, fanaticism also applies to our blood golem, which is going to make him get more life on hit. So blood golem, whenever he attacks, he gives us 25 life, and himself, and our merc, which is really helpful for helping them all survive. So fanaticism helps that way. And of course, it also gives fanaticism to our merc, which is going to make him proc more of his amplify damage things and all that. So anyway, that's the build for the gameplay and how you're going to do it. Of course, you'll joust when you need to. Basically, joust into a pack and you Zeal around, and then you charge to the next pack or joust or whatever, and you just Zeal when you can. As for stats, very specifically, you need to get at least 174 strength to wear Crown of Ages. So, as you can see, I've put enough points in so that when I have my Dracula's equipped with 14 strength, I hit that breakpoint. I think I got 1 strength somewhere and a charm down here too, so that helps. So make sure you get that with your gear. Dex, you want at least 136 to wear a phase blade, and then any more is going to also increase your damage and also increase your block chance in your defense. So it's not a bad stat to have a little bit more. Same with strength. If you have a little bit more strength, it's still going to increase your damage. It's not a big deal. However, for Ubers, you want to make sure these two stats are as tight as they can be, because you really want as much health as possible. The more health you have, the less stressful all this is going to be, because basically when you get hit, you get chunked down, you want to have enough cushion room where like you can get hit twice before you heal, and then you can hit a healing pot and go back to full. Otherwise it's a little scary. So as much vitality as humanly possible, 0 points in energy. In terms of our resistances, you'll see that our max resistances are what they are. That's great. What I've found is you want around 170 all resist for the 3 tri-elementals, and then, as much poison to get to the max, and a little bit extra is fine too. The reason you need 170 is because the Uber Mephisto does a very big conviction aura, and also Bale does a lower resist curse. So in the event that somehow you get cursed and convictions on you, you're still at full resistances. So I think the safe point is 170 in each, so you're always at your max resistances, and you don't have to worry about that throughout the fight, because elemental damage is a huge part of this fight. Not only do Mephisto does every type of damage, including a poison, a very pretty bad poison. So not only and Diablo's doing lightning and fire, and Bale's doing all 3 as well. So a lot of the damage comes from the resistances, and so being able to resist that damage makes this whole fight just a lot easier. If you don't have max resistances, you will just die right away. So that's kind of like a big part of the fight. The other big source of damage you're taking is physical damage. So the bosses will occasionally, just attack you, and those can crit. and if they crit, you take a lot of damage and you will be going down very fast. So having physical damage reduction gives you, again, more of a cushion to keep yourself alive with the potions. So that's all I'll talk about for that for now. Let's look at the actual gear that I'm wearing. So first of all, your weapon. I think death is probably the best bet for most people who are going to do this. If you can get a last wish, obviously it's better. I've done this with the necromancer helping me with life tap, and I didn't use a single rejuvenation potion. So obviously Dracula's Grasp in this mod does not have life tap for that reason, because it just trivializes the whole fight. A last wish is like going to cost you 11 or 12 high runes, so it's not something you need, but if you can get a last wish, it's very good. But for 99% of the time, you're going to be using a death, and death has 3 really good reasons why you want to use it. Number 1 is it's quite cheap. It's a Vex Goal, so this is something you can pick up for 0.75. Reason number 2, it has a lot of crushing blow, 50%. The cap in PD2 is 75% crushing blow. There's absolutely no reason to get to the cap when you're doing Ubers, just because the nature of the fight is you just need to survive and be able to do enough damage so that they die before you run out of full rejuves, and 50% crushing blow is plenty. It also has 22% deadly strike. For me, as a level 90 character, this scales on your character level, so it's going to increase your damage. Every time you crit, you're going to double your damage. That also caps at 75. Now that stat I would want to get more of when I'm actually farming with this build, which I have a different set of gear for. But for Ubers, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And another great thing about this weapon is you get the O skill Blood Golem. So this does help a lot while you're doing most content. The Blood Golem's going to fall over in Ubers, but he's good to summon whenever you reset to go fill up your belt again with new pots. And he'll take 1 or 2 hits throughout the fight and then just die. But he's kind of helpful. If for some reason it's going to live, this life on hit will work against the boss, so he'll heal you up and maybe save you a couple pots here and there. So it's just a little icing on the cake. The reason I'm using a phase blade is for that attack speed breakpoint thing. I don't want to have to worry about attack speed. However, if you can get an ethereal Eaton axe or berserker's axe, it's going to do more damage, like probably 30 to 40% more damage. I personally just like the way the phase blade looks, and I like the range on it. I feel like the axe's range is too long, which causes you to miss sometimes when you're playing, and I don't like the play style with an axe. It just feels weird, and I don't like how it looks. So I'm willing to accept the slight decrease in damage for the utility of a phase blade, and also for the looks. So there's that. Another huge good thing about this is, of course, ignores target defense doesn't work on Ubers. So you need to have quite a bit of attack rating, and this gives you 20% bonus to that. So 20% extra attack rating is a huge deal in this fight, because it basically means that the fight will be 20% faster because you're going to be not missing. If you don't miss at all and you fought these bosses, it would take like less than a minute to clear the whole thing. The thing is you're missing a lot. You're going to hit maybe once every Zeal, so every 7 attacks you're going to hit or something like that. It also has Mana Steel, which helps a lot because we don't have Mana Steel on anything else. So all around, this item is essentially built for Ubers, and it does actually have good damage with the enhanced damage range. The Glacial Spike is kind of negligible, but it's kind of cool. But that's the weapon. The shield is Exile. No surprises here. A couple reasons why Exile is great. Number 1 is Decrepify. It's going to decrease the damage coming out of these bosses, and it's also going to increase the damage you do to them by lowering their physical resistance. And Decrepify is a good AoE, so in Ubers there's mobs that spawn as well, and you'll hit them with Decrepify, and it'll just it's just great. It enhances your damage, lowers their damage output. Second is Defiance Aura. So in Season 6, Defiance Aura actually provides you with physical damage reduction per level. So you get 1% physical damage reduction every 2 levels, I think, or every 1 level it is. Yeah, so I'm getting 7% from the aura on exile. So that's a huge buff this season. Also increases your defense rating by a fuck ton. So without it, and mind you, I don't have Holy Shield on. I've only got 2,000. I put it on. I'm getting 570 from the shield, but you can see the Defiant Sword is a big portion of that defense. The defense is super important because if you get hit like 2 or 3 times in a row and they crit, you're going to die. So you really need to be avoiding consecutive hits, and it's an RNG game, but this gives you a huge advantage. Block rate is amazing. When you have Holy Shield on, your block rate's almost max, so kind of negligible. Freezes target's really helpful when you're farming, because a frozen target can't do its attacks. So things like Claw Vipers, the dudes that do the big, the Moon Lords, I think they're called. If you're freezing them, it stops them, and basically it just makes everything safer. So that's a pretty good utility thing. Replenish life is kind of not to be sneezed at in Ubers, because you can't life steal when you're poisoned, and for the first half of the fight you're poisoned, so your only passive life regeneration is from replenish life, so it's actually not too terrible. You also get max cold and fire res here, which is going to increase your maximum resistances again by quite a bit. I put this in a base that has 26% all res. Anything over 25, I think, on an ethereal elite paladin shield is enough. I chose Sacred Rondash because if I ever want to go smite with this exile, I feel like the smite range of 35 to 58 is a lot less RNG than, say, the Vortex shield, which is like 8 to 87. Even though it's a higher top end, it's a much lower low end, which means it's less consistent, and so consistency is always going to be more valuable than random spiky things. So I think that this is a better shield for smiting for that reason. And of course, you make it in an ethereal base because it has the Repair 1 durability mod. And yeah, that's it for the exile. The armor, there's really no other option than this one. This one's going to give you a massive increase to your maximum resistances. So you want at least 5 in the ones that matter. Now, the ones that matter are everything except poison. The poison one can be a 4. It's negligible, but yeah, you want at least 5 in the tri-res. I've also used the little hammer, which was added this season, to give it 1 socket to throw in an Ort rune to give me a bit more lightning resist, because I was lacking that in my charms and other gear. But of course, you could slam this for sockets and get Tal Ort full in there to get tri-res 30. Or you can get some runes if you're rich, that type of thing. There's a lot of leeway here. You can, of course, slam this for different stats you're looking for. But it's 1 to all skills, and it's max res. So very, very good. Now, another kind of underlooked thing about this is the attack rating against demons. So all 3 of the Uber bosses are, of course, demons. So, and as I mentioned before, how important attack rating is. This armor was made for Ubers, for Paladin, so extremely important. Another item that is kind of it's slightly replaceable. You could use a rock stopper with now hear me out. Rock stopper's not an elite helm, but it does have all 4 resistances, and they range from 40 to 50. I think. So it has basically 40 all res on it, and reduces physical damage taken by 10%. So it doesn't have the curse reduction, which is, in this Ubers it's kind of useful because it's going to lower the curse durations, but the main selling point of the helm is it's got 3 sockets, and I've put a Ral, an Ort, and a Thul to get another 30% out of each. So you get a ton of resistance, you get a ton of physical damage reduction, and the curse reduction is just an added bonus on top. But if you can get a 3-socketed rock stopper with good rolls on the resistances, it's pretty much the same thing, and they're free. So keep that in mind if you're trying to do this early on a budget. The amulet, there's a few options, but essentially you want all res in the amulet. You can either go with a metal grid, which I did with perfect res, which, you know, the metal grid also has a bunch of attack rating and it also has some defense on it. So, I mean, 311 defense is like another helm. So it's a lot of defense, really. But mainly we're looking for all res. The second options is, of course, Amara's with perfect all res. That one's, you're going to have more damage come out of you because you got, like, you know, plus $2 skills and all that, and more stats. But I think metal grid's fine. It's also cheaper than Mara's. For gloves, you need something that gives you, again, some source of attack speed and lifesteal. I also like the Dracula's because it has open wounds. Now, open wounds normally prevents monsters from healing. However, the Uber bosses, that just doesn't work against them. They will still heal at some rate. So the open wounds is going to counteract that slightly, but not totally, like it works on everything else in the game. So yeah, having open wounds is kind of important, and also you need lifesteal because once you've killed Mephisto and you're not poisoned anymore, you can lifesteal off of Diablo and Baal, so that's really helpful. And again, this is just a shitty slam because I didn't want to pay full price for Drax. So yeah, that rounds out our increased attack speed to get to the maximum breakpoint. Next is the rings. So for the rings, you want absorb. So cold absorb, really strong, 5%. It's always like that on Ravenfrost, and then 6% from the Dwarf Star. Now, the way absorb works is not only does it reduce the damage you're taking from fire by 6%, you're also healing for 6% of the fire damage you take. So this works like double resistance. So it's kind of like 12% fire resist in this sense, but yeah, it works similar to the way physical damage percentage reductions work, but for elemental damage, and it's on not much gear in the game. So having it for cold and fire, I think, is essential. And also, Dwarf Star has a ton of life, so that's really nice. And it also has magic damage taken reduced, which is kind of hard to get as well. So that's gonna go a long way in a long fight. Like 15 magic damage reduction in a 10-minute fight is gonna add up to a lot. So I use these two rings, and especially cannot be frozen. You need that for sure, or you're just going to be fucked. Again, Ravenfrost has attack rating, which is important, and yeah. So Verdungos for the belt. Now, Verdungos is a lot of health. This is a bad Verdungos. It's only 30 of it, and it's giving me, you know, over 100 health right there. So that's a huge amount of health. It's also got replenished life, which I talked about earlier, which is nice. Faster hit recovery is nice. And again, the most important stat here is physical damage taken reduced. So this, in conjunction with the helm and your Defiant Sora, is going to add up to somewhere around 30% physical damage reduction, which is basically you're only taking, you know, you're taking much less damage from physical attacks. As for the boots, there's a few options, but I like the Alder's boots. They have 50 life, which is a ton of life, and they have a bunch of fire res. So you could get a slam with. I got a slam with extra fire res because whatever, but you could get a slam with any kind of resistance you're trying to get that you're kind of lacking. So main thing here is the 50 life. There's really no other good boot options. You can use sandstorms for you know, some strength and whatnot. It's kind of a flexible option, but I like the Alders. Nothing you really put here is going to give you a huge advantage. Now you could do the Inferno Stride, drop the Ravenfrost, and get something else, but I don't think that's really worth it. As for charms, you want to essentially get to this crazy 170% resistances. So my charms are just a collection of weird charms that I got while leveling that just have like all resist or specific resistances. And once I get to the 170, I just fill the rest with life charms, because life is the next most important thing for this fight. And that's what I've got going here. So I didn't pay for any of these charms. I found the torch and, you know, got this stuff while leveling. So That's the gear. I went over the build. Let's talk more about Uber specifically. I just finished doing Ubers with this exact setup, and I got this Druid torch, which is not worth much. But so in order to do Ubers, first of all, you need key sets or organs. So you can buy organs. Now, organs are essentially the talismans, but we'll get into that. Essentially, to do Ubers, you need a 3x3, they call it. So you need 3 keys of terror, 3 keys of hate, and 3 keys of destruction. Now, you can get the keys from 2 different bosses for each key. There's Countess and Bloodraven for this key. The Summoner in Arcane Sanctuary, or Blood Witch, which is in Halls of the Dead. The 3rd key you get from Nithalak or Zeal. So I'll just be straight up. If you're farming the keys, just do Bloodraven. Don't do the Countess, because the Countess you have to go through 6 levels and teleport. It just takes forever. Bloodraven is super easy to find and easy to kill. For the Act 2 key, again, don't do the Summoner, because these could be in one of 4 directions. Just go to Halls of Dead waypoint level 2, find level 3, and then you find the Blood Witch. Super easy. And I would never consider doing Nithalak, because he's very dangerous. He has Corpse Explosion. And again, you got to find your way down there, and then he could be in one of the 4 different areas. I just do Zeal. I take the waypoint to Plains of Despair, I think it's called, or no, City of the Dam, and you go around the perimeter like this, and basically you just look for the next zone that you're gonna go to, and you just find him, and he just falls over. He's super easy to kill. So that's what I recommend for farming keys if you want. However, if you're at the point where you can do maps efficiently, there is an event that happens in maps where I'm not sure how often it happens, but I've found it about, I don't know, five times, and I've probably done 20 maps, maybe. So it's quite common. And basically the event is you find this obelisk in the map. The earlier you find it, the better. And then once you click it, it'll spawn a bunch of mobs throughout the map that, if you kill, have a chance to drop keys. Now, on average, every time I've done this, I've gotten essentially 7 or 8 keys. It's not always a perfect key set, but as you can see here, I didn't farm any of these keys from the aforementioned ways. I got these all from maps. And I've been, if you get 2 maps with the key event, you're going to get a 3x3 plus some extra. So I honestly recommend, if you're trying to farm keys, open a map and don't even imbue it if you don't want or whatever. Run around until you might see the little thing, figure out if it's a map that has the key event going on, and then just do the map, and you will get more keys per hour than you would farming them from where they come from. So that's my advice on that. Anyway, once you have all 3 of the keys, you will put all 3 of the keys in your Heraldic Cube. You go to Act 5. Make sure you're in a spot where you can click the portal that you summon. I don't know if you can't do that, but that would suck if you did. And basically, any 3 organs cubed will become a talisman. So if you think that it's easier to do one of the 3 different Ubers, mini Ubers that open up, by all means, open the portal, leave the game, and do it. But you can open all 3 in one game. You'll get 1 of each organ. It doesn't matter which organs you cube. You just need 3 of them. And essentially, you open up this portal. It takes you to the mini Uber, where you either have like Uber Duriel, Uber Andy, or it's really late. I'm tired, but the other Uber guy. It's Uber Izzy. And yeah, basically you kill them. They have 100% chance to drop their organs. They're a joke. I don't even really. I wear the gear I do because I'm ready for it. But you can use your regular farming gear really and just kill them as a Zealer. You get the 3 organs. You put it in the cube with a key. You hit the transmute button, and you'll get this little talisman. And the talisman, in order to actually go to Uber Trist, you have to come to this fountain and right-click it. And if you're doing this with a team or anyone else, they have to be next to this fountain, or else they won't go to Uber Trist with you. And what's changed in PD2 is that once you go there, you cannot make a town portal, and you essentially, if you die during the event, you waste your keys set and you don't get another opportunity to try and do it. So make sure you're fully prepared when you're doing this, and put your game face on, because if you make a mistake and die, you're just throwing away right now a key set going for Vex. So if you die, you're just going to lose a Vex rune, which is a huge bad. So yeah, once you're inside Ubers, I didn't talk about it, but yeah, on the swap, you want to call to arms, and ideally, at least the same resistances you have on your exile, so that you're not tanking your resistances when you swap, if you have to swap and recast. But you want to call to arms. Call to arms, the things that matter are, of course, just battle orders, battle command, I think. Battle command gives you one skill, and it doesn't matter what level it is. The duration will increase, but you're always going to get one skill. But battle orders, it increases the actual amount of max life you're getting and mana. So the higher level battle orders is good. And of course, battle cry is something you can use if you feel like you have the time to do it. It only lasts 8 seconds on mine, but basically it gives you 7% physical damage pierce, which is huge, and also lowers their defense, so you're going to be hitting more. So you're going to try to do this if you can on the boss to nerf them, and then switch back in Zeal. So that's on the swap, but basically you're going to want to, come in, swap, cast your stuff, summon your dude, and then, cast your stuff again, and then give yourself a very strong holy shield, and then swap back. You'll see that I have 1500 health right here. I'm going to just wait for him to buff me. Yeah, so my Merc, the reason I have this Merc is that his battle orders is way stronger than mine, and it's giving me around, another 400 health on top. So the reason you take this Merc is because the first boss you're up against, he's gonna die. It doesn't matter what gear he has. I haven't found a setup where they don't die, but essentially you want to have him with a Lacerator, which has this amp damage proc, level 31, and basically when he gets on the boss, he's gonna proc amp damage, and he's gonna proc the battle cry, because he casts his own battle cry, and it's much stronger than ours. That's going to nerf the first boss you go against, which is going to be Mephisto every time, and make that fight very quick. And also, if you can beat the fight before his bow runs out, you're going to have a much easier time, because you got 400 extra health. So the other Mercs, they're all going to die. So this is the only Merc that gives you a kind of a lasting effect throughout the fight. So I think it's the best one. And yeah, so you're going to go in. You spawn in the top kind of right corner, and the three of them are usually together in the center of Trist. So you want to go around Trist, go to the side, and very carefully just edge your character on screen to try to, what you want to do is aggro Mephisto to come out to you. Now Mephisto moves extremely fast, and basically you want to separate Mephisto from Baal and Diablo and kill Mephisto on his own. You want to watch out for Baal's lower resist curse, because if you get that on you and conviction, even with 170, you're still going to have less than max, and that's going to hurt. And that's where our Crown of Ages comes in play. It's going to reduce the duration of that. And of course, that's why we're running all this resistance, so that we don't die when that happens, if it happens. But anyway, you pull Mephisto away from the group, and then essentially you just Zeal him, and you don't move. And you want to make sure you know exactly how many potions you have, and you have your fingers ready, and if you drop below 50%, you use a potion. You also, very important for Ubers, you want a full stash of potions and a full cube of potions. That'll give you the most amount, and one antidote, because the poison that Mephisto puts in you will not run out. It lasts like 20 years. So bring one antidote with you, so that once Mephisto's dead, you can clear the poison, start lifestealing again, and move on. So you kill Mephisto first. Thing about Mephisto is you can't lifesteal against him, so just be aware of that. He does a couple things and summons archers and skeletons. If you start summoning a bunch of the archers that do magic arrow, it's worth it to get off Mephisto and kill those because they die instantly. But otherwise, just stay on the boss and kill him. Once he's dead, refill your belt carefully, and then the next thing you want to do is you want to pull a Baal out of the group. So Baal kind of doesn't walk around, but he does teleport, so it's a little bit annoying. But you basically get in range and you try to get him to telly, and then you get out of range and get him to telly again, and make sure you're far away from Diablo because the mobs that Diablo spawns are quite strong, and he has a lot of effects going on the screen that you want to avoid because it's just having both of them on you at the same time, even with the max resistances, is just going to be a lot of damage. And so once you get Baal separated, note that Baal does all his regular abilities. So he's going to mana burn you. He can do that little knockback thing. So you want to put yourself against the wall. He summons little tentacles, which don't really do anything but nerf your damage. And yeah, he does lower resist, curse, and he can also duplicate himself. So if he duplicates himself, you really don't want to be on the wrong one. So in order to not get fooled by that, when you're attacking Baal, you just don't stop left clicking him, and if he does duplicate himself, your character will automatically just run over to the one you were attacking before he duplicated, and that will confirm that you're on the right target. Once Baal's dead, again, fill up your belt with rejuvenation potions, and then you just go fight Diablo wherever he is. Now, Diablo has the most amount of random shit damage coming out of him. He's got his Infernos, he's got the AoE, he's got the lightning channel thing. He also has meteors that fall from the sky. And he's also got that AoE druid attack that's just happening all the time. So you want to make sure you're in a spot where you're not getting hit by that thing that falls from the sky. He also summons pit lords and death lords and all kinds of really tanky mobs that when they get close to him will start soaking up your Zeal damage because you'll start attacking them instead of Diablo. So again, I suggest you get close to a wall so that you don't get surrounded, and it kind of helps with the damage output. But once you've killed the first two, Diablo's quite easy. He can chunk you down, so just be careful. Yeah, and then when they're all dead, it'll open a portal, and you'll get your torch. You'll get a standard of hero for every person in the game. So if you want to get 7 friends to wait until the Diablo's at like 1%, they can all join, and you'll get 8 standards of heroes. That's something you can do if you want, but it doesn't really matter. And each of the bosses has a 20% chance of dropping the materials needed for Diablo clone. So those are quite expensive. I haven't found one yet, and I've done Ubers 3 times on ladder so far. But yeah, that's kind of it for Ubers. And I wish I had more visual aids here. I should have got some footage while I was doing it, but yeah, it's really just a lot of patience and managing how many potions you have and being prepared. But I guarantee you with this setup, you'll be more than safe, and it's not that stressful. It's still a little stressful, but yeah, it's. I think so far it's worth it. A key set is around Vex, and there's no torches under Vex. So even if you're just getting Vex for your efforts, the chance of finding the declone materials, if you find one of those, they're worth more than a high rune, I think, right now. So big find. And also, if you get a really good torch, it's more than a Vex. A lot of people are selling them unidentified for Vex, and you can do that too. So yeah, I think it's pretty fun, Ubers, and I think it's quite fair, the fight. I don't know if I'm going to do Declone or Rathma, because those fights seem really hard and really RNG, and you've got to move around, and I don't know if I'm into that. But yeah, I'll leave that there for now, and I've got more videos coming out later this week. I'll be going over a couple things. Just waiting on Between Walls to get the item pack finished, but I have some stuff I'm working on, so expect some videos soon, and yeah, take care, guys.